If you'd picked up the phone, I would have come. Of course you would have. You'd sit with me, tell me jokes, convince me I was strong enough to handle it all. Like I could take on anything. James Garner wasn't the type to stir trouble. In Hollywood, he was known as steady, grounded, the rare star who carried no ego. Colleagues described him as professional, courteous, and unfailingly respectful, whether he was speaking to the lead director or a rookie grip on set. He wasn't a man who complained. So when James Garner quietly raised concerns about someone, people should have listened. But they didn't. The subject of his unease? A woman as legendary as she was glamorous. She was considered untouchable, a silver screen icon whose style and strength captivated the public for decades. She had built her image around confidence and sophistication, becoming a symbol of independence in an era that demanded women play by the rules. To the world she was flawless. But Garner had seen something different, something the cameras missed. And long before anyone else spoke up, he tried to warn them. For years, few believed him. After all, she had charmed audiences, critics, and the press alike. The industry celebrated her. Yet, as time passed, stories began to surface, from other actors, directors, and even the crew working behind the scenes. Slowly, the truth began to take shape. James Garner had been right all along. But who was this woman? And what had Garner seen that made him break his silence? To understand why his warnings were so easily dismissed, you need to know who she was. Lauren Bacall wasn't just another movie star, she was Hollywood royalty. From the moment she debuted opposite Humphrey Bogart in To Have and Have Not, her cool, smoky voice and unforgettable gaze redefined screen presence itself. Audiences fell under her spell. Critics praised her. Studios fought to cast her. Bacall wasn't just admired, she was revered. Her persona was built on boldness. In an industry that often rewarded submission, she stood apart, sharp-tongued, self-assured, and unafraid to challenge authority. She wasn't content to play side characters or helpless damsels. She carved her own path, earning a reputation as one of the sharpest minds in the business. Many saw her as a pioneer, a woman who demanded respect in a world that wasn't built to give it. But behind the polished interviews and glossy magazine covers, there were whispers. Not from fans but from people who worked with her. Some described her as cold, others as controlling. Crew members swapped quiet warnings about her behind closed doors. But any criticism was usually brushed aside. After all, she was Lauren Bacall, and that name carried weight. Then she crossed paths with James Garner. By the time they worked together, both Bacall and Garner were icons in their own right. Garner, famous for his charm in Maverick and later The Rockford Files, was beloved both on and off screen. He made sets feel like families, treating everyone with the same easygoing respect. Bacall, meanwhile, commanded attention wherever she went. In 1981, they were cast together in The Fan, a psychological thriller with Bacall playing a Broadway star and Garner as her ex-husband. On paper, it should have been a smooth partnership between seasoned professionals. But from the very first days of production, Garner sensed something was wrong. The tension wasn't explosive, it was subtle. The kind that lingered beneath every conversation. Bacall carried herself like she owned the set. Precision became control. Confidence became criticism. She didn't yell, but her presence alone kept people on edge. Garner, always one to avoid conflict, tried to keep the peace. But even he couldn't ignore what was happening. Privately, crew members started to talk. Bacall was rewriting lines, questioning directors, overruling decisions without hesitation. For Garner, the frustration wasn't personal, it was professional. He wasn't looking for special treatment, he wanted a production that worked smoothly. But under Bacall's influence, every day felt like an uphill battle. He didn't lash out or create drama. That wasn't Garner's style. But those who knew him could see it, the quiet strain, the unspoken tension. Bacall, meanwhile, seemed entirely unaware, or perhaps uninterested. She believed she was simply being efficient, professional. To her there was no problem. Years later, when Garner finally addressed the experience in his memoir, The Garner Files, he didn't attack her outright. He wasn't one to indulge in Hollywood gossip. But his message was clear. Working with Bacall had been difficult. He described her as guarded, sharp, and dismissive, someone who looked down on those around her. He compared working with her to walking on eggshells. And what frustrated him most wasn't her behavior itself. It was how easily everyone else excused it. In Hollywood, powerful personalities were often forgiven, especially if they had the charm and legacy to back it up. Bacall's reputation meant people looked the other way. Garner, however, wasn't one of them. His quiet honesty didn't make headlines. His memoir didn't spark scandal. After all, criticizing a legend like Bacall was seen by many as disrespectful. But Garner wasn't bitter. He had no axe to grind. He simply told the truth. And as time passed, his words started to resonate. Others who had worked with Bacall began sharing similar stories, not in the tabloids but in hushed conversations backstage or between scenes. A pattern emerged. Bacall demanded control over everything. She challenged directors, clashed with co-stars, and created environments where tension hung thick in the air. Unlike fiery on-set blowouts, Bacall's conflicts were quieter, but they left lasting marks. James Garner learned that sometimes, the deepest scars are caused not by loud arguments, but by the cold silences no one dares mention. In the end, The Fan became just another entry in Bacall's long filmography. To audiences, it was stylish, suspenseful, and carried by her undeniable screen presence. But behind the curtain, it told a different story, one of strained conversations, subtle battles, and a legend whose icy control turned film sets into minefields. James Garner was among the first to see it. And he tried to warn us.